A very big thank you to all our expert panelists and of course to our very proficient moderator, Mr. Mandeep, for conducting that session to a perfect tee. Well, in this session, we definitely learned a lot more about these three captive spaces, didn't we? Now that we've learned so much about them, let us move on to our next discussion, which will help us leverage these three captive spaces by engaging the youth. And for the next session, we also again have three panelists, and these three are serious youth marketers. Our first panelist I'd like to invite up on stage is Mr. Rajiv Mehta, who is an engineer by profession and a retailer by passion, the young and multifaceted managing director of Puma South Asia. Please give a huge round of applause for Rajiv Mehta. Our second panelist, Mr. Jaideep Singh. Jaideep Singh heads the Integrated Network Solutions business at Viacom 18 Media Private Limited, a division that creates large format live music, broadcast properties and solutions across all media platforms of Viacom 18 Media Private Limited. A huge round of applause, please. And our third panelist for this session, may I please invite upon stage Mr. Prem Kamath, who was appointed as the General Manager of Channel V in February 2009 and has successfully transformed the brand into a leading youth entertainment channel of the country since. And moderating this session is the very dynamic and very versatile Mr. Samyak Chakrabarti, the Chief Youth Marketer of DDB Mudra Group. May I please invite him up on stage? It's over to you, Samyak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Well, it's ironic that very few in this audience actually form a part of this TG, youth, that we're talking about. But I'll try my best to keep it as youthful for you guys. Even on the panel, let me begin by stating, and you must notice that young people don't wake up thinking about brands. We don't care. There are so many options, priorities keep changing. We're a generation of Casanova customers. Today it's Pepsi, tomorrow it's Coke. Apple can become another fruit in a second. Yes, we are Casanovas in true sense. I therefore pose a challenge to my panelists. How do you then engage youth in a captive environment and most importantly in a sustainable manner? Because obviously as brands you don't want to engage us and then let us go as quickly as we came. So we begin with some opening comments and then we take some questions. Prem, okay, Rajiv, since I guess you're the youngest, we'll give you the...
Like you said, it's very difficult to engage today's youth or any consumer for that matter. People are brand agnostic. It's difficult to get their attention for more than a certain amount. So what we believe at Puma is to create unique experiences so that they remember it. They may not remember the brand associated with it. For example, Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon. I don't know how much of benefit Standard Chartered has had as banking. I think ASICS as a running brand has had more benefit, even though it's not directly associated in your face. Yeah. But I think creating a unique experience has that in the mind that, okay, I went and did this music concert. You may not remember it was Puma, but you will have that experience behind you. And at somewhere it'll eventually connect saying Puma. So we believe in creating unique experiences and that's what it is.
Jaideep. I think adding on to this point, obviously unique experience is very important when you're looking at a captive audience. But the fact is that are you able to add the element which is more closer to them? So I would say social media, digital, that connectivity. So whichever experience you're creating, is it there in their online space? And whenever you have captive audience in the captive space, yep, whichever captive environment you're creating needs to have a very strong online leg to it. I think that's a very key thing which goes in all the platforms we work on, but specifically on this space, because they want whatever they are experiencing in a captive environment has to go and connect to people or their social group which is outside that environment. So I think that's a very key piece of engaging them more effectively in a captive environment, and that you can do on festivals and you can do on marathons, and I think the different technologies which have come in like RFID tags and all that, that helps you achieve that element actually.
I actually have a slightly different point of view from the point you made. I don't think youngsters or the youth are brand agnostic at all. If anything else, I think they're even more engaged with brands, they're even more brand conscious. And when a marketer typically says youngsters don't care about brands, what he possibly means is that youngsters don't care about his brand anymore, or that it's become a lot more difficult to keep youngsters hooked on to brands for very long, which is different from saying youngsters don't care about brands. The fact that brand loyalty is shifting continuously means that they're even more engaged with it. We tend to apply the older metrics of saying once, and largely, I guess, thanks to how FMCG has shaped marketing in the country for years and years, we tend to believe that once a person buys a brand, there is an automatic cycle of repeat purchases. And if he falls off that wagon of repeat purchases, it means the brand isn't relevant anymore. We find there's a lot more experimentation. We find people are trying out different brands. You might have, paradoxically, you might have loyalty to 2 or 3 brands at the same time, right? And you might be shifting between each of these 3 brands, and at each cycle, a different brand might be satisfying a different need. But I do think that if anything else, people are even more conscious about brands today, especially youngsters. And it's therefore become that much more difficult to keep your brand relevant. And like Jaideep was mentioning, experiences are shaping it far more than information. And one of the big challenges that I see in what I guess we call captive audience marketing is how do I keep this experience going? And even here we tend to be applying the old metrics of saying information is the same as persuasion. So as long as I put out my message, I put out a billboard, I put out a sign in a mall, as a communicator, I believe my job is done. Whereas that's merely amounting to information which is of very little relevance to this person who is within that captive audience. And the key becomes how do I engage him?
Right. You know, I guess one thing that we all would agree upon is that there is no definition to youth, you know, in the sense that, of course, geographical classification and the economic classification is there. But in an era where there is so much of content and there is so much of diversity of content, how do you then, as a channel or as a platform like Supersonic, ensure that what you are putting out there is appealing to all kinds of youngsters? Or do you make a conscious choice that I am only going to target X mindset of youngsters? Because in our channel V, I see now there are soaps being shown. A lot of my friends say, dude, it's so crass.
Sure.
But then another segment says, brilliant.
Sure.
Some people say Supersonic is a wannabe Sunburn. You know, I mean, this is all out there. So how do you then manage?
Sure. So should I go first? So it's a really relevant question, and it's a question that we tried to answer for ourselves 3 years back when we started reinventing the channel in a big way about what youth is. So if you ask ratings agencies, if you ask TAM, they'll say youth is anyone who is in the age group of 15 to 24. If you ask the Census Commission, they'll say anyone under the age of 35 is youth. If you ask some other regulatory body, they'll say anyone who is under 18 is youth, right? For us, we've defined youth in a very specific manner, and we said for us to be able to create content or to be able to create programming for a segment, what we need is really a commonality. So the whole idea of segmentation itself is commonality. There is a segment that has X set of needs which are common to that entire segment. The problem with saying my segment is 15 to 24 is that a 15-year-old has very little in common with a 24-year-old or a 23-year-old because those life stages are so dramatically different. So we started by asking what is this line of commonality? And for us, the definition has been very simple. For us, youth is anyone who is no longer a child but is not economically independent yet. Right? So no longer a child as an age, it's difficult to define that as an age again. Sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 11, and every year that age seems to be going down. Kids are growing up much faster. But the time when you've moved out of childhood but are not economically independent yet is what we call this life stage called youth. Because we find there's a lot of commonality there. You don't have your own economic resources, you are dependent on somebody else. There's the whole aspect of parental permissions, parental sanction. There's the whole aspect of societal sanction. All of it starts going away the moment you start earning your own keep and start earning your own money. And it's this segment, and this is the manner in which we defined this segment called youth. And the content that, and there's a whole set of insights that we have of this particular segment, a whole set of commonalities of this segment. And the shows that we create really cater to this mindset and this life stage and the issues that they face in this life stage.
Right. You know, Rajiv, as a brand, now let's keep Puma outside, just as a brand manager, do you really find value in associating with platforms like Supersonic or TV shows. I'm only saying it because they are here. Because I have insights from young people, and you said it in your opening statement, that they don't really care or remember who sponsored a music fest that they went to, or who sponsored a TV show that they watched. So then, as a brand manager, how do you find that value? How do you think it's a wise form of engagement, or you don't think so?
So I don't really believe that associating with a particular property, because, for example, Sunburn or Supersonics can become bigger in the minds of the consumer. You're going to Sunburn not because Puma is sponsoring it. You're going to Sunburn because it's Sunburn. What I believe, if you want to be associated, you create your own IP. You create your own property and have someone else do it for you. So, for example, in running, we have a corporate relay race called the Puma Urban Stampede. So I would rather be associated and create that than create a Standard Chartered, than associate myself with something bigger than Puma. So I think that actually helps me as a brand, because then people know the Urban Stampede is only Puma. There is no one else who is the sponsor. So whoever, I may be targeting, 1/10 the number of people participating in a marathon, or 1/10 the number of people going to Sunburn. But at least that audience is completely engaged and knows that this is a Puma property.
Do you agree, Jaideep?
It depends upon where you actually go about and what's the approach you take. I'll give you example of some of the stuff which MTV's done over the years. And we've very successfully have brands being on properties for years and years, and most of the associations are at least 5 to 6 years old. Case in point, whether it's Roadies or Splitsvilla or Coke Studio, Unplugged. The idea is obviously nothing beating the fact that you can have your own IP and build it up. It has its pros and cons, obviously. It takes time. You are a product manufacturer at the end, that's your expertise. And when you jump into content side and say, okay, I want to develop it, you can, but you will always have a little bit of gaps here and there. I think the main challenge is that where do you find the right property? Because at the end, most of the media properties, whether they are live or content properties, are going for the same insight of the consumer which a brand has. So one needs to match, okay, my insight for my product is X, and here is a property which is going after the same insight. That's where you actually can have an intrinsic embedment into the property, and then go for a long-term association. Then you join together at the inception stage and build it up. I would say the biggest example of that is launch of a channel or MTV Indies, which you've just done yesterday. Yeah. Now that's a next level of brand partnership. So it's not, it's where the Pepsi's agenda of going towards music and building that up. MTV's been over the years shifting more towards creating new content on the music space. Music is becoming big, so we've been after indie space for a long time. This new initiative is kind of a fantastic mix of a brand's agenda and a channel's agenda and building that up. Same stuff has happened on Roadies, and same stuff has happened on a lot of other properties we've done.
But you named properties like Roadies, which has Hero, Pepsi or Coke Studio. These are legacy brands. They will spend that money because they want to be out there. I'm talking about your low spenders but frequent spenders. Those who are going to give you your 10, 15, 20 lakhs at your festivals, or for them, is there any value?
Yeah, see, the value at the end, so when you're talking about a mid-level spender, his needs and his objectives are also in the same scale, So if you go into a big,
Not really.
Yeah, so I would say, if you go into, say, a Supersonic, we've got a couple of brands doing a lot of stuff there, so I'm not going to go into details there. But I would say we've gone and made sure that so Lenovo was one of the partners. They launched their Vibex, and they wanted the messaging to go with women being safe and all that. Yeah. The way the brand was integrated into the festival, with the anchors, with the pictures, they getting the whole engagement going on much before the festival actually happened on ground, then the gratification happening there, then that getting captured, getting looped back on the online viral. In terms of their matrix they got out of it has really worked fantastically for them. So it's about defining your objective. It's about making sure your brand is not just a brand logo there. It's intrinsically involved in the product. And you have your parallel activities around the property moving on. So I think that's a very key thing. How do you engage with the property and thereby engage with the consumers in the pre-launch stage, during the property, and post the property? I think if you can address these three stages, then you achieve your objective. Otherwise, you end up just being one of the brands on the backdrop of it. And this engagement has to be on ground, on air, online, office. All the platforms have to be kind of linked in, and then you can actually take out of it.
You know, Rajiv, and maybe, and if you can answer this now, a brand like Puma is a cutting edge brand. Puma, Converse, Nike, Adidas, and beyond the category. You all are inherently, I hate the word, but I'll use it, cool brands, you know. But let's come to an Ava mineral water or an everyday brand, you know, which also has to target youth. And they are what brand like Ava is maybe something that youngsters buy every day versus a Puma. How do you think what can they do differently in a captive setting to sustainably engage youth and enjoy top of mind recall? Anyone? I hope my question is clear.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I think there are two real aspects to what you're asking. One, we have a demographic dividend where 65-70% of the country is youth. So it doesn't matter what you're marketing. Chances are that you are targeting the youth, right? Unless you're a special interest product who is targeted to the elderly, you're targeting the youth. Does that make you a youth brand? It does not, right? Do you have to be a youth brand? You don't have to be. Does Ava need to have values that are intrinsic to youth and youth culture? It's best answered by Ava, but it's not necessary for a mineral water brand to become that, right? Typically, one of the key definitions of a youth brand and one of the key cornerstones of a youth brand is exclusion. A brand becomes cool for the youth when it can exclude a large number of non-youth or grown-up people. The strongest youth brands are brands which grown-ups cannot comprehend, right? Cannot get a hang on why this is working. Musicians are the best examples of that, right? There is no one above 18 years of age, self-respecting person above 18 years of age who would ever be caught dead listening to Justin Bieber, right? Yet one of the biggest youth icons in the world today is Justin Bieber, right? Every video he puts out gets 550, 600 million views on YouTube. And for the life of us, we can't figure out what youngsters are seeing in it. And it's the classical definition of a youth brand through exclusion because nobody else who's not young gets it. In India specifically, there is no youth culture, right? And there is no concept of youth culture because what youngsters in India want today is not dramatically different from what their parents want, right? They want, what parents want today is better incomes. I want a better house, I want a better job, I want a bigger car. You ask any 16-year-old, it's exactly these set of aspirations that he's reflecting, right? There are countries, for example, in the West, where what the younger generation wants is dramatically different. They want to fall off the system. They want to fall off the treadmill. They want to get off this culture of consumption, move into other areas. We're beginning to see we're beginning to see early indications of that happening in some segments, in some sectors, right? So, for example, political activism, it's beginning to happen at a certain level, saying that I'm not part of the system at all. I want to create a completely new system. Economically, that's not happening. Culturally, that's not really happening. Maybe it will. But at this point in time, even large brands which are targeting youth, for example, Pepsi, is not in your classical definition a youth brand. They're not doing in India, for example, what made them really big abroad, right? What made them really big in the US. Yeah. And that's fundamentally because as a culture, we are fairly conformist, right? And we are fairly comfortable belonging.
So do you think that's the reason why brand managers are holding back in bringing in innovation, adopting cutting-edge methods of engaging youth in this specific session? Because it's not about money, right? There is enough money being spent, but we don't see something that wows us. Like at an airport, I see a billboard. At a mall, I see a kiosk. You know, we all use these jargons, experiential marketing and this, that, but I think the best experience I saw in a mall was what Etihad did, where I could experience the first class seat. It stopped there. But if you go abroad, there's a lot more. Why do you think, is it a mindset problem? Are we conformists or what is it?
I'm really sorry. I think the biggest issue here is that we don't have the metrics to measure this. Okay. So no matter what you're doing. So for example, we have an event called Nokia India Fest, which is in its 4th year this year, and right from the first year, we did something that was really interesting and different at that point in time. We were the first people to introduce this whole concept of RFID bands in an event where people could swipe it and it automatically updated their Facebook account. So the idea was you're wearing this wristband, there were boxes kept all over the venue, and whenever you liked something, you just swiped your wristband and it already had your Facebook details and it automatically updated your Facebook page. The issue became, how do you measure something like this, right? And how do you put a value to it? So in the absence of anything else, we eventually said, fine, we'll measure the number of impressions it makes, which really devalues the kind of engagement something like this creates. And that applies across any kind of activity that you do. So I was listening to the earlier panel where there was a discussion about airports versus malls versus theaters. Eventually it boils down to saying, what's your footfall, right? How many people are coming into your mall? And that's a really silly way of measuring this, simply because if you wanted fundamentally eyeballs, as it's called, and footfalls, your best medium is television. You'd be stupid to put up anything in a mall because there's no way your cost per contact is ever going to compare with a massive reach medium like television can deliver to you. And therefore, if you don't have the metrics to measure something like an activity that you're doing in a mall, you're constantly going to use metrics from another medium like a television or a print, and you're always going to under-deliver on these newer mediums, and then you're never going to be thinking beyond merely saying, how do I get 5 lakh people now? How do I get exposure to 7 lakh people now? And that's really the wrong way of thinking about this.
It is platforms like Supersonic, Sunburn, or stuff like that, which is about numbers, where you guys insinuate that thought, where you say, oh fine, give me money because I'll give you 10 lakh footfalls. And there's no conversation about quality and the engagement or receptivity you will get.
See, at our end, the whole idea of going into live from a brand's perspective, I'm not talking about experience perspective, from a brand's perspective, while whatever you create at the end has to be about your consumers, but you also have to make the thing more viable. So our idea of launching the whole live division was, when you go into festivals or concerts, was how do you make sure that the experience which is on ground is going to millions of eyeballs. So all the live properties we've created, even if you talk about Supersonic, has a very planned out strategy on the content side as well. So the way I see A-level consumer, you first design your product from a consumer perspective, that he gets the experience, he gets what he wants on ground, and the consumer experience has to have something he's not seen before, whatever is happening around. And you add more technology angles to it, you add more core value proposition of the product. So it's music, the music has to take the center stage rather than just put the headliners and stuff like that. And make sure the brands can use the television and the online assets which we have at our end to get its core TG which he wants to engage through the use of the platform pre, during and post. And that's the way we see the ground experience delivering more value back. And then you can actually devise a little more refined way of, obviously you need what is mentioned. I think that's a very, very critical fact, that we're still in a much behind the curve in terms of having the matrices which are there in most of the evolved markets, and that makes it easier to innovate and spend more on the innovations in the malls and other spaces. We need to still reach there. But here it's about mixing all the three platforms to deliver more value back.
You mentioned, I think, thrice about integrating online.
Yeah.
But let me share a simple qualitative insight that we got as a part of our DDV Mudra Group youth report that we recently launched. That it is true that youngsters spend a majority of their time online, through mobile, through their PCs, through the tablets, but barely a fraction of it is spent on brand engagement online. I am so consumed with my girlfriend's pictures on Facebook or my friend's pictures on Facebook or my Twitter and the content I am following that I don't have time to read about what Puma is telling me. And that is a proven insight. Not only DDP Mudra, you ask any youngster on the road, he will say, I love Facebook, but I don't care whether there's a Lenovo or a Pepsi on the right side. Then if we cut all the jargon aside, how are you getting that share of space and mind online?
Yeah. So by way of looking at that is, when you say about engagement online, is about you. If it's about music, the guy likes the music, and if you are creating a story around music, that's how he's getting engaged. He's not getting engaged because it's a brand which is giving a message about the brand. Brand is giving a message which he is associated with. So if, say, a Pepsi is associated with music, he creates a story around music, and that's how intrinsically it is going to him. He's not saying Pepsi and hey, I'm on the face.
It's pointless for Pepsi. When Coke sponsored Coke Studio, I was looking at the music, not the Coke behind. So then what is Coke actually gaining?
See, my way of looking at it is that that's what's your brand strategy at the end. You know, Coke's brand strategy, if it is about communicating its message through music, that's what he's thought of. I am creating a platform to communicate that. And if Pepsi wants to go into the Indies music scene and wants to be seen as a propagator of music, and they as a brand ideology feel that music is going to help them connect to the youth and get their positioning where they have to, I'm creating a platform for that. You know,
Do
that's
you
the
really
way I
believe
see
it helps? Honestly,
Yeah.
between friends, do you really believe it helps?
I truly do.
If you didn't
Yeah.
work for where you do right now.
I still do. I still do. I'm not kind of, I
You'll
still
have
do.
to ask him after the panel.
Okay, we'll throw it open to the house. As the previous moderator Mandy said, keep your questions crisp. Please introduce yourself, and you can address it to anyone. No questions? Nobody wants to engage youth here? Wow. The gentleman there.
Hi, good afternoon. My question is to Mr. Kamath. My name is Firoz, and I'm from Future Promos and Events Private Limited. We have been associated with Channel V India Fest since 2010. Okay, every year the property is getting bigger, and we have been traveling with your team everywhere. But most of the time, you know, when we tell about the property to our clients, new clients, so they want to get associated with the property. They want to do the stall over there. So
Sure.
like how we can go with this business opportunity?
Okay, I think we should really take this offline. Yeah, I think it's quite
Because
difficult for the
this
rest of the
is
people
not
here.
only for me, but even for our colleagues, for the industry.
Yep, I'll put you
Yeah.
in touch with my sales team. We'll be more than happy to engage with you.
Next question, please. Anybody else? Mandy has a question.
So why is question to all the three panelists? You know, I obviously know the stats that 50% of Indian market size is lesser than 32 years of age. But why are we all marketeers making, other than just this stat, such a hue and cry about talking to youth? You know, we get briefs by dime a dozen. And everybody says SEC, ABC, youth 20, 24, 26. Is there any sale objective in it, or is it just to catch them young? And any three or all three you can answer this, please.
So, my marketing budget is 2% of total revenue. So that's how little I spend on marketing. Because I firmly believe as a product company, your product has to be the hero. So from a lifestyle perspective, our lifestyle product needs to be designed coolly, has to have the right colors, has to look so cool that anyone who has got 2 feet would want to wear it. It doesn't matter about the age or the gender. Secondly, on the performance side, the product has to deliver the value that it promises. If it's a running shoe, it should deliver, it should be able to help you run faster, longer. If it's a football shoe, it should help you kick harder, longer, faster. So that's what we firmly believe in. Whatever product you put out there has to be the best product. After that, everything else is ancillary. Everything else you're doing is just to be out there. Just because everyone else is marketing, you just need to be out there. But if you believe that 2%, out of that 0.5% goes to Yuvraj alone. So, I have 1.5% marketing spends for a brand which is as widely known just because the products are out there and products deliver the promise. So it doesn't matter whether it's the youth or anyone who wants to wear a shoe, whether it's cool or for running or football, needs to believe in the brand. So, yeah.
Any more questions? The last question. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Just to quickly summarize. So, here we're saying that it's very important to acknowledge, as Prem rightly said, that every brand cannot be a youth brand and should not try to be a youth brand. I think that's harakiri if you try to be youthful. My feeling is that a lot of the platforms right now that we have in India are not creating much value from a perspective for brands to engage youth, not because there is any lack of talent. I think that I would like to say we don't yet have the balls to do it. And I think that would be the solution because young people want experience. What I meant by saying that young people don't wake up thinking about brands is that, our priorities are fairly different. And brands, of course, we care about. We live in a branded world. But we don't have that reason to really love a brand like that. Apple legacy, we just keep talking about one Apple. BlackBerry is no longer BlackBerry. And I think that the legacy brand like Pumas have an advantage with youth in India because you have a story to tell. So thank you guys. It has been brilliant having you. You have a question. Okay. As the organizer, you have all the privileges.
So, you know, the session being engaging youth in captive environments. Channel V's got a property, Live Viacom 18's got a dozen, I believe. And Puma traditionally has associated with several properties, the Puma run in Bangalore. And I've been to some of your launch events or activation events. There's always a lot of experience. I was wondering if each one of you all could just share some characteristics of these environments that you all keep in mind, given that you all want to engage youth in these environments. Because as we understand, you all are already experts in the space of engaging the youth in captive environments. So just a few key characteristics of such live environments and spaces.
So I think the first and the key, most critical part is the product itself. What you're communicating in terms of your offering, that's the first key thing of engagement. So one should not lose the sight of, if I'm talking about a music festival, it needs to have a very, very strong music proposition in it, first and foremost. If you have that, then I think you can create a lot of other elements around it to create the engagement to the next level. You have technology elements and you'll have ancillary things to do around it. But your key element will always be your core proposition. Then I think the second key element can be how can they engage with people outside of the captive environment of sharing their experiences. And these are the two key pillars which define how you can engage them much better. So if you go in a music space, you want music. If you're going to a property like MTV Extreme, we're trying to figure out, you need to make sure that you have your sports angle covered, you have your music angle covered, and then you have the opportunity of them being able to loop it back to their peer group. I think broadly those are two very key elements one would want to focus on at any point in time, apart from the infrastructure and the quality of experience they get while they are on ground, seeing and experiencing the core proposition you're trying to put in front of them.
Anybody wants to add anything?
So in any Puma event, we'll be mostly the main sponsor. So that's one. Second, we'll always have a pop-up store for people to experience the product. Because without a product connect, if it's a lifestyle event, we'll have lifestyle products. If it's a running event, we'll have free shoes. If you want to run in it, you can run and give it back to us. So that's there, that's the experience. And third, because we also want to be connected all the time, as much as possible, we have a live Twitter feed being telecast at every event. So if you are hashtagging a particular event, you will be able to see your name and the Twitter feed being there. So these are the three staples in every event of Puma.
Thank you for reminding. If you guys would like to tweet, please hashtag Brand Bootcamp and tweet about your learnings about this event. Thank you guys. It has been great to have you.